Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's another episode, Psych School. Hope everyone is doing well. Got my man Joe Gray over here. What's going on, Joe?
What up? Hey, we're excited about this episode right here.
Absolutely. We brought in another person, another amazing human being to have a conversation with today. One of my really good friends, one of our really good friends, Markeith Price.
Yeah.
All in all, just let me see how much information I can run off my mental right now about Markeith.
Man, run it down.
Let's see. The first time I heard about Markeith was 2006, maybe 2007, I want to say. And Markeith Price, he's a Paralympian, two-time Paralympian, track and field. I know that, and Markeith, interject if I get something wrong. Markeith has participated in the 100, the 200, the 400, the 800. He's competed in the long jump, the triple jump. We have been
got it
on.
right.
I did.
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay.
Hey, wait,
okay.
hold on. You forgot, bro, has competed 4x1 relay like
Okay.
a couple of times. That's where me and him met.
And I should have
sir.
known that one because, not to cut you off, Markeith, I should have known that one because in 2013 World Championships, Lyon, France, we ran the 4x1 and we got the silver medal and we set a new national record. So that was a really good time, really good year.
Yes, sir. It was exciting.
But I want to, before we get things really kicked off, me and Joe, we got Markeith stories. So we're gonna see whose story.
Hold on, what's going on? What's popping?
We got Markeith stories. I got a Markeith story, and so we were I'm gonna keep names out of the story because I don't want to embarrass anybody or anything like that. But I will say Markeith's name. We were in Christchurch, New Zealand, at the World Championships 2011, and
oh man, I know where you're going. Okay, go ahead, bro.
And so the
Go
setup
ahead.
is, let me paint the picture for everyone. When we go on these international trips as Paralympians and Paralympic hopefuls, you go to these trips and they have us in either a village or a hotel. This particular competition, we were at a hotel, pretty it was decent hotel. You go downstairs to eat your meals. So they have everything at breakfast time. You go down, get your breakfast, lunchtime, dinner, so on and so forth.
Man,
One of our meals, we had some fish. I'm not sure what type of fish it was. It was like a fish stew or something. And one of our teammates, my man, I want to say he may have had 2 plates of the fish stew, maybe 3 plates.
Man, nah. It had to be like 5, boy.
Okay.
Yeah, he was eating that fish.
Okay, so he was tearing up the fish stew, and somewhere along the lines, my man got really sick. And sorry for the visual with this one, but he's just throwing up all over the place. Bathroom, just fish stew everywhere.
Man, hey, I hope y'all ain't eating while you listening to this episode.
Man, bro.
But the beautiful thing about the whole situation is Markeith was the one who kind of took the reins and helped clean that up and helped make sure that the athlete was okay. And so when you think about that type of act, not too many people would do that. They wouldn't want to go in there and clean up those things. But Markeith is a total team player on and off the field of play. And he's the type of person you want around in your life for sure.
I appreciate that. Man.
That show you the type of character that he got. Like he all around good dude. And I ain't gonna hit you with the story that I got for you, bro.
What story you got for me, bro? We got stories.
It's one of our TSU stories, bro. We're gonna say that for a later episode.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, man, let's go ahead and get into the meetup.
Okay.
Man, first off, why don't you go ahead and tell the people your eye condition?
So yeah, you guys, like they said, Markeith Price, I'm here. So my eye condition is something, it's called optic nerve atrophy. It's you want me to explain it or
Yeah, go ahead.
So optic nerve atrophy is something that you're either born with or you develop over time, or sometimes it might be that something, kind of happens where like some type of accident or whatever it may be. And optic nerve atrophy basically means that your optic nerve is not fully developed or it was damaged. And for me, my optic nerve wasn't fully developed when I was when I came out the womb, it wasn't fully developed. It never developed all the way. And so I basically have that in both of my eyes. And then in one eye is actually better than the other. Basically, my left eye, I really can't see too far out of it at all. Well, can't see too far out of neither one, but my left eye, I really can't see out of at all. I can kind of see colors. I can, I always tell people it's like a collage, like a painting. If you ever look at like a Picasso or some type of painting that's like blended colors, that's how my left eye, that's how I kind of see the world. And then in my right eye, I actually have a little bit more sight. So I always tell people 5 to 10 feet is like the clarity of what I can see. But then, I can go into more details because sometimes I have to explain to people, like in my right eye, yes, I can still see a car. I can still see like trees. I can see buildings because those things are really big, but it's just those important kind of things that like people or certain objects is the 5 to 10 feet range for me.
So like within 5 to 10 feet, you can see people's facial expressions clearly, or you can see like details.
I can see details. That's what it is. I can see details. So like 5 feet probably would be where I could see details of somebody's expression. But then if we're going to talk about real details, then you probably going to have to be really close. And that's a little bit too close for, that's like personal space.
Yeah,
so
that's
too close. Too close.
That's COVID.
Yeah.
That's
It's too close for
COVID-19. COVID-19 close.
Yeah, too close. Yeah, COVID-19 close, man.
That's too close for comfort.
Yeah, so basically the 5 to 10 feet is basically like, yeah, I can see your eyes, I can see your mouth, I can see your nose, and I can see probably, well, yeah, of course, I can see the colors that you actually have on, but like after 5 to 10 feet, I really can't, I'm really guessing. I always talk about this guessing game with visually impaired people, or I feel like for me, like I guess at a lot of things. Sometimes I get it right, and sometimes it's just, I take a chance and I get it wrong. I know when I was in school, man, I used to tell people to like, hey, I can't see, I'm visually impaired. Make sure if you want to say what's up, because they used to get mad that I didn't wave or I didn't say what's up. I used to tell them, hey, make sure you say hey, because I'm not going to be able to see you. I'm walking, I'm trying to get to where I'm trying to navigate. And, they used to get upset because they couldn't understand how this guy is walking. And he said he's blind, but he's walking and he's going to class, and it's just like, man, they used to say you always disrespectful, man. I'm like, I used to just shake my head. I'm like, bro,
shake their head. They didn't get it. Yeah, they didn't understand.
Now a lot of them do, but before, yeah, they was just like, nah, bro, you lying.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. So you talk about it's something that you experienced from birth with the optic nerve atrophy. At what point did you realize yourself that, okay, I have an issue with my eyesight and I have difficulties seeing things?
So, man, I think it's like I think it's like different sections of it though, because like, as you get older, you just like start to realize like, dang, this is reality.
Yeah.
And like it's not a bad thing, especially if you've already accepted everything. But I can remember, boy, like at age 3 or 4, like remembering like that I couldn't see like others. And maybe that was because I actually got diagnosed when I was 3 years old, and my parents told me, because I have some friends that are visually impaired, and they were visually impaired all their life, and they didn't know that they were visually impaired up until they were like 12 or 13 years old, and their parents didn't know either, which is crazy because they kind of have the same vision acuity as me. And they just, they thought those they were like behavior problems or whatever, but it's that they couldn't see. But for me, because my parents went to go see a specialist, because there was a principal at my school that my parents had enrolled me in, she said, hey, I think you need to go send your son to an eye doctor because I think he's having some visual problems. And I can get into that story and tell you that a little bit later. But I think because of that, I was able to pick up certain things, and my parents telling me like, yeah, you can't see like everyone else. I think that's when I realized it, but I didn't fully grasp the whole concept of it. So there's a couple stories that I have, and I'm gonna make them real short. So one story that I have of realizing that I was visually impaired is probably around the age of 3 or 4, and there was these fireworks, and I didn't necessarily like fireworks per se when I was a kid, but I was we had moved into a new house. My parents had moved into a new house, and it was 4th of July. It was 4th 4th of July, and we went outside. Like, I could see the fireworks, but I couldn't see the fireworks. And I don't know, it's just, I can't even explain that one, but that's when it kind of like registered to me. Like, I see different than other people, because what other people are explaining to me as a 3 and 4-year-old, like, is not nowhere near what I'm seeing. So the other story that I have is probably about the age 5, maybe 6, I think 5. And where, you know, I'm in a classroom full of kids that have what we'll call normal vision. And so, like, at that point I knew, but I didn't understand. And so I remember that in the old class that I used to be in, that so like pre-K 3, pre-K 4, right? You have these letters at the top of the classroom, and it's saying A, B, C, D. You know, it's saying the whole alphabet. And when I was 3 and 4, I could not see that. So at the age of 5, I snuck in the classroom like after school one time and wanted to be able to see like what was really up there. And of course, I know what was up there now, but what I did was I went on the chair. I still couldn't see it. So then I went on the desk, right? No one knows this, but no one saw me. I went on the desk and I literally like was trying to see what the letter said. And so I was able to actually see. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so you went back after class, snuck in the room so that you could see what everybody else was seeing.
Right. I could see what everybody else was seeing because I didn't really know what was up there. I only guessed because we were saying A, B, C, D, and the teacher was pointing to that. I remember that. Year or two later, I was a little bit taller. I remember learning my ABCs. Of course, you know, the ABCs, you got the books that says ABC, but I wanted to see what was up there because I couldn't really see what was up there. I was just curious. And I had already known that I was visually impaired at the point, but it still didn't click that I like was visually impaired. Like, I just still didn't understand it. And I think those are like two significant moments in my life. The fireworks is just a feeling, and just wanting to see what the other kids kind of saw and why I couldn't read the letters like that. I think that kind of registered to me that, like, you know, I'm different and that's okay, you know?
Right. So when you were looking at the letters, were they blurred? Did they look like they were smudged together? Like, how do you remember what it actually looked like?
Man, when I stood on the desk, I still couldn't really see them. It still was at a distance. So I'm gonna say that they were probably still blurry, but I knew what they were because they were giant letters. Like, think about if anybody can remember pre-K, and I feel like they have this all in pre-K. You know, you're learning alphabet, so they got A, B, C, D's everywhere. Like, they got it in the carpet, they got it on the chalkboard and everything. And so at the top of the class, they had that little thing, and for me, it was blurry, but I knew what they were, so I could kind of see it.
Right. Did that make you feel a certain type of anxiety, or were you scared, or was it like, I know Joe and I have talked in conversations before about, you know, when children experience these types of things, it's almost like kids are so resilient and they're able to just like bounce back. And so when you think about that in your situation, was there a period of time where you kind of had to get over some feelings of deep sadness or anxiety, or was it just like, you know what, this is all I really know, so let's push forward?
Shoot, to be honest, at the time, it registered that like I see different than everybody, and you know that I'm around. But at the time, nah, like it didn't even register to me like that I felt sad or whatever. I just was like, shoot, I'm gonna just keep. I mean, at
You
the
just gonna
time,
keep going.
yeah, I'm gonna keep going. I can honestly say, yeah, like getting older on some, like, as I was 10 or 13 in high school, like, yeah, I dealt with things like using the tools sometimes, you know, that kind of was hard. Like, when I say tools, so your CCTV, the large print,
Right.
and actually being at schools where no one else is using these things, or learning Braille. Like, I actually love learning Braille, but there was at a point where, because I was the only person that was learning Braille, I felt some type of way. But other than that, to be honest, like, nothing really ever stopped me.
Right.
And like, yeah, you deal with certain emotions, but as a kid, boy, I mean, my parents, my mom and dad always said, like, yeah, I always was like, nah, I'm still doing it. And what I mean by, nah, I'm still doing it, they used to be like, I used to be like, I want to go and do this. And my parents would be like, I don't know, you know, your vision and this. And I'm like, nah, I still want to do it. And then
Right.
they didn't stop me. Like, they literally said, okay, well, he says he thinks he can. He says he wants to do it. So we're going to let him. We can't just like let him not try. So I literally played all the sports, not all of them, but I played a lot of sports. I played soccer, played basketball. I did taekwondo, you know, played the drums. You know, I did a lot of things, and I felt like when I was younger, that's just my mindset. And it's still the mindset that I have now. Like, I'm not going to let something stop me just because I see different than someone else, or like, you know, yeah, visually impaired.
Right.
Like, okay, great. Let's move on. Like, you know.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
the interesting thing about that is, like, I've talked about my mom and how she's engineered a lot of everything in my life,
Mhm.
and she pushed me. And so you said that you went to your parents and basically was like, hey, I want to do this. I can do this. And so that is like a different type of look and feel, because you initiated that, it sounds like.
Mhm.
Whereas I don't know if I necessarily went to my mom and was like, oh, I want to do this, or I can do this after I lost my sight. I think she kind of
Mhm.
opened that door, opened my mind to me seeing what I could do and who I could be.
Mhm.
And then from there, I took the baton and
Mhm.
ran with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like you kind of like let your parents know that, oh, okay, like I get it. This is a situation. Like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be visually impaired. It's okay, but
Mhm.
I still want to get out here and be great. Basically, I want
Yeah.
to do this and play sports and go to school and have friends
Mhm.
and kind of break the barriers or boundaries, or just live life at the end of the day is what it
Yeah. I mean,
really is.
I'm gonna be real. I like when I was younger, and I'm more so talking about like that elementary age. Like, once again, like I definitely had some understanding of what a kid is when it comes to like being visually impaired. I knew that I couldn't see the board. I knew that I was having issues with certain things in school, and I had to learn differently. And, you know, I heard the talks that the adults were having towards me about, well, we don't want him in the class because he can't learn or whatever. And then my parents would be like, well, all you need is this to help him to learn. And so then they did that, and I actually did better. It was a small difference, nothing major, something really small, because like whether it was like large print, or understanding that he's not going to be able to see the board, or understanding that when my head is down, I'm not asleep, I'm actually listening. And it's hard to like keep my eyes open at that point in time as a kid. Like, it was hard to like to register like what's going on in the classroom and not have headaches in class.
Right.
And so when they would call on me and then they would be like, what's the answer for this? I would be like, oh, here you go. And then I think some of those things for some of the teachers, they started to understand. So I feel as though like what my parents did for me is the classroom stuff, but my willingness and to just like do period was not to be like cocky or anything like that, was just a God-given thing, because for me, I didn't know anything else but what I was going through. I always for the last couple of years I've been saying like I've been visually impaired for this long, I've been visually impaired for this long. So when I'm 30 now, not to put my age out there, but I'm 30 now, so I've been visually impaired for 30 years. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know anything else but what
What you
what's
know.
my vision, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I got a question for you though. So like Lex and I have talked about our experience through school where, he was in an environment where he was at a public school, where I was
Mm-hmm.
at a school for the blind, and we talked, we bounced the comparisons back and forth. What was your schooling
Mm-hmm.
like? Like, where did you go to school, and how were you able to, move in that environment that you were in?
School was cool. um,
Bars.
yeah, said bars, right? Yeah. School was cool. I mean, I struggled in school, but then I also didn't struggle at the same time. Like, my parents enrolled me into a private school when I was in elementary school. Middle school, I went to a public school. And then high school, I went back to a private school that was going to be able to like help me a little bit better. And it's so funny because my experience, I know we all, each one of us have different experiences. So there's always been this thing where the teachers, not all of the teachers, but there's been teachers where my experience for me, like I said, like I listen. I hear things, you know, I pay attention. So a lot of the teachers would tell my parents like, well, we can't teach him, or we can't do this, or we can't do that. And so my parents would have to like advocate for me, and they will always say, hey, Markeith, you need to make sure you're speaking up for yourself. At the time, it was great that my parents were able to do that. They didn't really understand what that meant until maybe my sophomore year in college. My experience in school was just, I was really trying to keep up with everybody else. And now I've come to the place where I don't feel like I have to do that. Even with me being I'm working on my graduate degree right now. And so it was kind of weird because I always had friends. I always played sports. I always, like, I won't say I was like the cool kid, but I always was like, you know, maybe because I was good at sports, like, oh yeah, that's Markeith. He's blind, but he also does this or he does that. That was kind of the theme for me in my like primary school years and stuff. But I remember there was a time where I went to camps at Maryland School for the Blind,
Oh, okay.
and I actually wanted to go to school at Maryland School for the Blind because this was the first time that I literally was around people that were like me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was weird. And this is why I say my schooling was cool, but it was weird because Maryland School for the Blind looked at me and said, no, he needs to be in school with everybody else, because they basically said where I was like in my level of education is like they basically said basically said I needed to be in the regular school system.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents knew that, but I really wanted to go to the school. I
Yeah.
kept on. I think I cried about it. I was like, man, like I want to go there,
Right.
and they was like, they told me no. My parents said no. The principal said no. The teachers said no at Maryland School for the Blind. But it was weird because at the time I couldn't understand. Like, okay, like the teachers in the regular school system is pushing back, telling my parents like, oh, we can't teach him, or I'm just having a difficult time. And then the people that are supposed to be helping me, like in my mind, I know that they're helping me now. They were helping me now. As a kid, I felt like they were pushing back at me too, because they were saying, no, he can't go here either. And so I felt, that's the weird thing. Like that's what made me sad during that time. I was around middle school. I was
It,
sad because it was like the teachers here are saying we can't teach him. We can't even keep up with the kids in our school system now. And then the school that is supposed to be helping me is saying like, no, not to like toot my horn, but they're saying like he's too independent.
Yeah.
Like
mm,
we teach people to be independent, and he's already too independent. He's already too this. It's great that he goes to camp here, but no, he can't go to school here. And so
mm.
I'm not gonna lie, that was a period of sadness for me. But as an adult now, I'm just like, I'm glad that that all happened, because everyone has their own story, and that's my story. My story
Yeah.
is that I always had this willingness to just do. So
It's interesting because when I hear you talk about that, it's like, man, it feels like, okay, don't nobody want me. Like, I want to, I want to go to this school, but they're telling me I need to go to this school. Then the school where I am, they're saying that, oh, okay, we may not be able to help him because of this, that, and the third reasons. That's challenging. I was thinking about, this is like super random right now, but I was thinking about the episode of Fresh Prince, Will Smith, when he was hanging out with his dad, and at the end, he's, why don't he want me, man?
Right. And you got to think, man, that's a heavy feeling to have.
Right.
How much he wanted to go to the Maryland school, but they were just like, this may not be the best fit for you.
Yeah.
Did you have?
And like I said,
go ahead.
I wanted to tell one more thing, and I was just going to say, because I feel like this was a significant change for me. When I went to high school, like the high school that I went to, literally, I went into the school, and you had to take a test. It was a private school, and they literally didn't accept me at first, right? And they basically had said, yeah, we don't think we can teach you. My parents had told me, like, my parents, they didn't sugarcoat anything for me. Maybe they think they did, but as I've been telling them stories, they like, wow, we told you that? I'm like, yes, you guys told me a lot. And I think it helped me. I think it actually helped me out, like, by not hiding things from me, right? They didn't want me to, like, so the school, they was like, yeah, he passed the test, but we noticed that he has an IEP and he's visually impaired and it says that he can't see. And we've never taught this type of student before, ever. Literally, they had this program for people that have dyslexia, which was called the DAW program. They didn't accept me at first. And so my parents, because they did not want me to go to certain schools, I'm not going to name the schools or whatever, but because of some of the schooling system and how things were, they went up there and said, hey, he is a great student. He is going to be able to do this. These are the tools that he's going to need. We're going to have the state, like, vocab rehab teacher come in and, do this and do that. And they basically, the vice principal, and I don't know if he was the vice principal at the time, and actually he's the principal. At the time, he said, well, okay, let him in school. And so he let me in school. And then literally, I think my sophomore year, and my dad had to remind me of this. And I can't believe I had forgot, but I'm not going to ever forget this. But maybe about 2 years ago, my dad reminded me that that's what he said to me. The vice president, the vice principal. He said my sophomore year, because I was doing great in a lot of my classes, but there was this difficult teacher that I had. And he sat me down and he looked at me and he said, hey, Markeith, he said, I'm going to keep it real with you. He said, life is hard. He said, but I'm not going to lie to you. He said, because you're visually impaired, he said, you're going to have to fight harder. And he said, it doesn't matter. He said, you're going to have to just learn that you're going to have to fight harder. And I know that it's not fair, but you're just going to have to fight harder. And so I can't remember how I took that back in the day, but I do remember him saying it to me. And I probably was like, I'm not going to lie, excuse my word, but I was pissed off. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
probably. As I can think about it, like, this man's telling me my life is going to be hard. Like, get out of here. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And
Yeah,
so,
because you looking at it like, man, you're not walking in my shoes. How you know what it's gonna be like?
Right. And so then the reason why I got reminded, because I think 2 years ago I got inducted into the Hall of Fame for my high school, for the sports Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, kudos
and,
for that.
Hey, that's what's up, man. Congratulations.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate that, you guys. And so the vice principal at the time, he's the principal now. And, we taking pictures and this and that. And my dad was like, hey, do you remember what he told you? And I was like, nah, what did he say? And he said, remember that time you went to the office and he said that and he said this? And I was like, because my parents were in the office.
Yeah.
And at the time. Because I didn't do good in this one class because the the teacher was giving me a difficult time, and you know, once again, only kid in school to be visually impaired, and basically it was hard because, you know, I couldn't see the board. I was trying to learn, and then, you know, one of the things that the some of the teachers saying that I could do was go up to the board to write the notes down instead of having a note taker, because I wanted to do everything myself. I didn't want a note taker.
Right.
But this particular class, the teacher would embarrass me a lot of the times, because when I would ask to go up to the board, she'd be like, all right, okay, go ahead, hurry up, right? And so, like, in that moment, I learned the hard lesson that some people just don't understand. And I'm not going to say whether she cared or not, and not to go by the
Right.
pronoun or whatever of who the teacher was, but you know, that was hard for me because she was acting like, you know, like I was being a disruption, and I'm just trying to get my education. And so when I told the principal that, he's just like, you know, he just kept it real with me. And like I said, I was mad at the time, but I think what he was basically saying is like, you just gonna have to, it is what it is. You're gonna have to work hard, and everybody has to work hard at life. And he said, you know, unfortunately, I'm not gonna say that it's gonna be easy, but he said it's just gonna be harder for you because of your visual impairment. And so I kind of take that as I just gotta work harder than the next person, and that's okay. I'm good with that.
I think that, I mean, I definitely think that there's truth in that statement, what he said. However, I think that it stems from the obstacles that people put in your path. I think obviously in life we're all going to face different challenges and go through different things, but as we're seeing right now, especially with a lot of the conversations that's going on in and around the country, a lot of these obstacles are like unnecessary things that are in our path. These are things that if people would just have a conversation surrounding, oh, okay, well, my child has a difficult time seeing the blackboard or whatever they use now. Like, can my child just sit at the front of the classroom so they can see? If that is what helps them, that's a simple accommodation that you can make. Or in your case, Markeith, when you had the teacher, like, oh, okay, well, hurry up and get up there and write the notes down. Like, change your language. Like, change how you speak to people. Don't make them feel as though they are an inconvenience.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier. You know, previous episodes we talked about. A lot of times people automatically make the assumption that if I have to accommodate you, then I have to inconvenience myself and everybody else that's around. When really that's not true. The whole point of the accommodation is so that you can have a level playing field. You know, that's why they want you to sit in the front of the room. But it's good to hear that you wanted to take advantage of being independent, right? You said, well, I want to take the notes myself. But, you know, the teacher probably looked at it, well, if they can give him a note taker, why don't he just take the note taker? Why don't he just let somebody else do it for him? Where you working on skills, you advocating for yourself, being independent, going up. And like Lex said, you know, it's not that's how you say it. You know, if she's saying, well, you hurry up. Well, then you hurrying up and rushing and trying to take your notes. Well, yeah, now you're nervous. You're trying to get as much as you can before she tells you to go back to your seat. There's a lack of understanding that a lot of people have in regards to people with disabilities in general, and especially when you talk about a visual impairment, because like you said earlier, they see you walking around, they see you doing things, but it's like, well, shouldn't you be helpless? You know, Lex talked about people, you know, them talking about him and a handler. It's like, you're not doing what are the stereotype. You're not fitting in that mold of bumping into stuff and being just clueless everywhere you are.
Right. And I hope I didn't. You still got some more?
No, you good. Go ahead.
Oh boy, you get me excited because the moral of the story of what I actually took from what the principal was saying is that people aren't going to understand, and what we're trying to say is, if people actually take the time to try to understand, things would be better. But the fact that, one, they don't understand because I'm not fitting the stigma out there of what people see as visually impaired. And we got a great guy on here, Lex. Not to put you out there like that. I know you told your story already, but you're considered totally blind. You definitely aren't fitting the stigma of what they say a totally blind person is supposed to do. Me and Joseph and I, we definitely are not fitting what a visually impaired individual is supposed to do. What is a visually impaired person supposed to do? And I think that's the question that should just be like, they are people. You know what I mean? Like, we
Right.
do what we do. And so if people can actually like sit down and take the time to understand, well, you may not understand it fully, but if you just allow people to like be, or allow people to, what I'm trying to say, like, just take the chances, or basically oh man, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it.
Right.
If you guys got something, I think you guys might know what I'm trying to say. Go
I
ahead
think I think you're trying to say, man, you just gotta let people live, and
yeah.
also you can't, making assumptions. Everybody know what happens when you assume, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, it's like what Lexus said. Just have that conversation. Ask. I've
Mm-hmm.
always said I'm not offended if somebody asks what I can see, what I can't see. Now, a lot of times it's not, the words they choose aren't the best, but I have to understand that, they're ignorant in regards to me. So I have to make the impression that, and understand that I represent every person who's blind and vision impaired by default. When they meet Markeith, automatically,
Mm-hmm.
if they've never met anybody else who has a visual impairment, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to think whatever impression Markeith leaves on them, that's the impression that they're going to have when they meet the next person. And I'm going to be honest,
Yeah.
I'm trying to set that bar so high,
Yeah.
but also it be a realistic height too. Because
Yeah.
I don't want to make it where somebody else comes behind me and they're like, wait, you're not doing what he did. I don't want it to come across like that. But I want them to know that there's capabilities. We might have a disability, but we still have plenty of capabilities, just like our sighted peers.
Yeah.
And I think the
Go
point
ahead,
of
Marquis.
educating people. Oh, my bad. I was just saying, I think that's the whole point of educating people on it. And like, yeah, you set the bar, and you might have met uh people, and they may not ever meet another visually impaired person again. So they may think, well, every visually impaired person is supposed to do that. So yeah, by default, they think that, and you're setting the bar. But I also agree to the fact that it's about just educating that visually impaired, blind individuals, people with disabilities, point blank, period. You know, we're people, and we can do whatever we put our mind to. And I mean, that's going to get into, I know you guys, we were going to talk about the foundation, but that's one of the things that I like, why I actually created my foundation, is to advocate for people like that are visually impaired and that are blind.
Let's go ahead and get into it though. Go ahead and tell everybody what is your foundation, what's the name, what do you all do?
Got you. So we are considered, we're our name is ICU Foundation. And we basically we provide resources to the visually impaired and blind community, and we also provide scholarships for education. So to help people that are visually impaired to go to school, whether it's like a technical school, or a high university, graduate school, whatever it may be. We do that through USABA,
Mhm.
actually. And yeah, we just we're advocating for people to get resources, just advocating for more resources.
Oh, okay. All right. That's what's up.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the name of the foundation again?
ICU Foundation. So it's the letter I, the letter C, YOU Foundation.
Now, when we talk about, okay, I hear that you're offering the scholarships, and when you say resources, what types of things are we talking about?
Man,
Is it like technology, or is it, helping kids for, if you want to talk about, I know you've helped out with camp abilities. Are you helping kids to attend camp abilities or support that function? Like, how does that look in terms of the resources piece?
so it's on a yearly basis, but it's all types of resources, man. We've done the camp abilities thing, where we've helped out with them every year. Also, Maryland School for the Blind is is a school that we actually, we give to every year. We hope that we can get enough funding one day to give to all the schools of the blinds, all the different like entities that blind individuals use, the blind community use. But resources is a broad thing. So sometimes even if someone calls my phone, I'm not a counselor, but I'm going to help counsel you to get to the right counselor.
Right.
So basically, whether it's like your vocab, your rehabilitation special program, whatever it may be, like in the sense of like they call it doors here. In Maryland they call it doors. I know they have different names, different acronyms for other places, but basically if it's some type of resource that you're missing, whether it's the technology, and maybe we can't necessarily pay for it because we don't actually have the grant money, the another foundation that actually is offering it, whether it's, I've met several individuals where they're just becoming visually impaired. They're 50, 55, 60, 40, whatever age. And like I said, I understand that I'm a little bit older in the visual impairment game because I'm 30. I always say I'm 30 years in, where
Right.
someone that's 45 and they became visually impaired at age 40, they brand new to the game. They don't understand the dynamics of what they need. So like I said, when I say resources, it's whatever resources that are out there that we can try to provide. So if it's not financial, it may be support. If it's not our support of what we know, we may find somebody else that knows more information than us. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And then the site is what, icufoundation.org.
Yup, ICUFoundation.org.
Absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
y'all check that out. 501c3 organization, tax
Yes, sir.
deductible. If you want to throw some money towards that to help the blind and visually impaired community, that would absolutely be amazing. But man,
Definitely.
we got to talk about these sports right now. Paralympian, two-time
Oh man,
Paralympian, track
we
and
getting into
field
that?
extraordinaire. I just want to hear about how you got into track and field, and just what the journey has been like.
Yeah, give us a little timeline, man.
I got you. 1990, I was born.
Woo.
2020, I'm here, baby. Let's go.
Oh, okay.
Let's
Alright, I
go.
see. I see.
That's the timeline. Yeah, nah, sports, man. We gonna go back to the age of 3 when I was diagnosed. My dad, when we went to the doctors, my dad said he had a split thought, like, dang, is he gonna be able to like do this and do that? And then he said a prayer, and he said, you know what, he gonna do it.
Right.
And so that's what he told me. And he grew up on sports. Like his brother and his sister, they played sports. My dad was a all state. He had a high school record in track and field. He
Okay.
played baseball. He played football. You could think of, and he knew that sports is what helped him in his life. Like, just kept that drive. And he put me in t-ball when I was 3. I played soccer all the way to the age of 10, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like I could actually be a pro soccer player right
Okay.
now.
All
Like,
right, go ahead. Ain't
not,
no
not,
wrong with it.
What's your dribbling skills like?
man, my dribbling skills are nasty, bro.
Okay.
They
All
nasty,
right.
bro. I really feel like I actually could be a pro soccer player, and
Okay.
yeah, Paralympic and Olympian. You know what I mean?
All right.
So yeah, I played soccer. I tried to play some basketball. You know, I can dunk, but you know, I ain't gonna lie. I ain't too skilled in the.
I already know how that go. I'm right there with you. I couldn't hit
Hey,
the
but I
side of
love.
a barn.
Yeah, what?
I said I couldn't hit the side of a barn, so I'm right there with you.
Hey, but you know who nasty at basketball though?
Man, who?
LG, man.
Let
That
them
boy
Man, I
know.
already
Lex,
know.
Let
man.
Legs.
them know.
Hey, I
Let
already
them know. I
know.
Yeah.
got a jump shot on me. I got a jump.
Bro,
Yeah.
jump shot,
I
bro.
heard they call him Cloud the way he make them threes rain.
Hey.
That boy said cloud away. But yeah, so like I played sports, did taekwondo, but to get into the track and field thing, I think I saw my cousin maybe around 9 or 10. He was running track, and you know I always wanted to do what my cousins did. Like my cousin Gerald, shout out to him. I gotta name his name because he got to know. Like he inspired me. You know, as a kid, I always wanted to do either what he was doing or my cousin Billy was doing.
Mhm.
And so, you know, he started running track, and I'm like, shoot, I want to run track. And you know, my parents, you know, they saw me play sports, they saw me do this, do that. They always asked me. They always asked me, "Do you think you can do that?" Man, there wasn't a question in my mind to say, "No, I don't think I can do that." The question they asked, they said, "You think you can stay in the lanes for track? Because you know you gotta stay in the lanes." And
Mm.
I was like, "Yeah, I can stay in the lane." You know,
Just let me do it.
shoot, I was just like, "Let me go." I was lied to you. And they put me in track, knowing like, okay, well, we're gonna see what this thing. And ever since age of 10, I've been running track and field. Um, I've ran track and field for AAU, made it to AAU Nationals, USA, USA Junior Nationals. I've placed in the final, gotten fourth in triple jump, eighth, uh, in 800 meters, different little things. I actually was in high school. I was a all state athlete. I was a all county athlete. I believe I was on the top 100 list for best 800-meter runner in the United States at one point when I was in high school. And so yeah, man, track and field was just something that like I don't know. It's a drive that is inside of me that is just like it's so motivational for me when I'm out there on the track or when I'm training or when I'm, you know, thinking about a race or actually running a race. Um, Basically, that's how I got into track and field. Is just watching my cousin, knowing that I'm going to do it, whether I could see the run in the lines or not. And yeah, it's just been history from here.
Man, let me say the first time I met Markeith, we were at Youth World Championships, 2005, Colorado Springs. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember we were sitting in the lobby, and I seen Markeith. I was like, man, bro, I ain't really talking to nobody. And see, and I was like, I didn't really know anybody either. So we just kind of like gravitated to each other like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember bro was talking about him training. And this fool said he was running up like the sides of hills and mountains training.
Yeah, bro.
I was like,
Mountains.
what? Yeah, he was like, yeah. He was like, man, I run the 400, this and that. And I'm like, all right. So me coming in, you know, I'm feeling like Mr. Big Stuff. Like I'm probably there. I remember he ran the I went to Youth Worlds to run the 100. What I do, the 100 long jump, triple jump, and the 4x1. And man, bro went out and ran the 400. I remember sitting in the stands watching him. I was like, man, this dude like he was shot out of a cannon. And then they put me and him on the 4x1 relay. We had never ran the 4x1 together, none of that. Bro, we went out there, got a gold medal. We was on top
Yeah,
of the world.
we did our thing.
We did our thing out there. And man, we've been go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, man, that was 2005. We've been tight ever since. Anytime I go to Baltimore, man, his family, they treat me like family. Bro was at TSU with me. You know, we in Nashville. Man, he spent holidays with my family. Like, we all on the same page in regards to making sure that when it comes to the representation of people with a visual impairment, that it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we you know, we all solid on. We don't want it to be a thing of. We don't want anybody to look down on us, and that's something that the three of us have in common, and we're striving for.
What do you feel like your greatest achievement is from an athletic standpoint?
Bro, I've been asked that question so many times. It's getting a little watered down
Hey,
now,
well,
bro.
I
I ain't
never
even
heard it.
gonna lie.
Yeah, we ain't
I
heard
don't
it.
know the answer.
Well, look, give it to us. Don't give it a watered down version.
At this, you know what? And it's
I don't mean to give the watered down. Go ahead.
At this particular time, because the career isn't over yet.
Yeah, no. So when I mean by watered down is like, man, like I got so many great moments now.
We want that one though. Take your time, think about it. We want that one.
I ain't even gonna lie to you. I still feel like the number one moment, and you know, people may take it the wrong. Sometimes we're all about like winning, like the gold medal, which is cool. Like gold medals is cool. Like that's what you want. That's what you aspire to get. But my number one moment, because I worked my butt off for this, is when I got second at my high school championship, and I broke my PR, my personal best, in the 800 meters, and I ran 158, and I knew what to do, like to even get faster, because that was the moment where I was like, I can run 154. If I can run 153, like I know how to do it now. And I got second, and that kind of put me on the map to be all MIAA, which is like our conference again. So I was all MIA for indoor my senior year and outdoor. That made me all state, and just honestly, yeah, like that stuff was great. I was happy. My name was in the newspaper, you know, all that. That was good. But the fact that I actually beat my personal best, and I don't know, bro. It's just crazy because like out of all of like the achievements, the gold medals that I won over time, the awards that I won over time, that moment still like sticks in my brain as the top one. Like that was great. Like even being at the games, man, like, I mean, shoot, we can get to how the games feeling is. That's just a total different feeling. Like that's a whole experience. But this moment is a moment that can't be taken away from me. And it might be because the way my dad talks about his high school moment and how he won state and broke the record and did that. And maybe that could be the reason why it feels like that. And like I said, the games is an experience. 2012, 2016, the World Championships, those are experiences. But I still haven't found a moment that beats that feeling of when I did that.
Did you go to opening ceremonies in 2012 or 2016?
I went to opening ceremonies in 2012.
Okay. Well, now describe that experience from your perspective.
Like I said, man, that's not a moment, bro. That's an experience. So that's a totally different thing. Like it's great because you know that you gotta compete for 2012, you know that you gotta compete. You know that, you know, you may have to compete in a day or 2 days or 3 days, and they sit up there and they tell you, like, yeah, you know, you gotta walk all this way and you gotta stand for this amount of time. But man, that didn't matter to me. Even though I knew I had to compete like 2 days later, I was like, man, nah, I gotta walk all the way to the stadium. I gotta be in the crowd. I gotta be a part of the ceremony. And it's just a great feeling because you're literally walking amongst all these different athletes with all these different stories, some same, some similar, some totally different for them and how they got there.
And
All the
to
different
clarify real quick, we talking about the opening ceremonies for the Paralympic Games, the Summer Games. Just so
summer
those,
games.
yeah, those who don't know, we talking about the opening ceremonies.
And I remember that day because I went, let me see, out of the games that I've been to, the only opening ceremonies that I attended, I went to Beijing in '08 and I went to the opening ceremonies in 2012. In 2004 and 2016, I had to compete the next day, I think. So my coach didn't want me to go. And so, I mean, I understood that you want to get off of your feet, rested for the competition. But in 2012, I remember, and I know you remember this too, Markeith, we were standing outside of our condo or our townhome for hours taking pictures, doing all of this stuff. And people were just, people are standing around telling jokes. They are giving us bag lunches and stuff like that. And it was probably, I'm maybe shortchanging, but it was probably 3 to 4 hours before we even began walking to head towards the stadium to go inside. And then once you actually start walking, that probably took another like 30, 40 minutes or so, maybe an hour. And then you finally get to like the mouth of the stadium, like to the actual stadium. And then you begin to march in. So it's a long process. So when you think about athletes who have to compete a couple days later, more times than not, their coach or the athlete themselves would be like, I'm gonna forego walking in the opening ceremonies because it's a lot of it's a lot of standing, it's a lot of just unnecessary just activity versus just being back in your room, chilling, resting, and getting ready for competition. But if it's your first games, it's pretty hard to keep from wanting to experience that. Like,
it's too much excitement.
Yeah, man, too much excitement. And in 2016, I actually didn't walk, and then I had a lot of the, I would say, younger athletes asking me, man, should I go? Should I go? I'm like, I mean, that's up to you, but this is your first game. You gotta go. That's what I'm like, you gotta go. But I understand if you don't, because like I think I can't remember, but I remember 2000. I'm thinking in 2012, I actually had to compete like the next day, and because of all that walking and standing, I was just like, maybe it was 2 days after, and I was younger, and it was my first games, and it was London. Like how they pumped up London and how London delivered. It delivered. Like I went to 2016. It was great. That was, I would say, one of my best competitions in 2016. But 2012, the experience of London just was amazing. And so opening ceremonies is just, man, that's the first time I've been in a stadium with that many people, and I'm actually like they're coming to see me, and of course they're coming to see other athletes, but they're watching us instead of like, so if I can paint the picture of a Super Bowl, I feel like that's the Super Bowl times 10 because it's that amount of people in the stadium every single day.
Yeah, London sold out every track and field session for the duration of the games. Absolutely.
So every day was a Super Bowl. That's how I felt.
And so we're talking 85,000 people inside of the stadium every single day. People watching phenomenal athletic performances from athletes around the world.
How'd you feel when you walked into the stadium in 2012? Because I know 2008 you said you walked, and then the
Yeah.
other ones you didn't walk. So how did you feel? What was the feeling for you?
I think in 2012 I remember that one very, very vividly because again, we were outside of our condos and we were just kind of chilling and having fun. But I think at that time it was just wow. You know, I'm here with my teammates and it's the pinnacle of competitions and everybody literally is breathing it, is living in this moment and being present and feeling the magnitude of what's about to happen. And you walk inside of that stadium to be in front of a culture and a group of people who they understand fully what the Paralympics is. They understand that at the end of the day, we're just athletes, just like the next person, just like an Olympian or a football player or whatever. And I think that's the beauty of the experience that London gave us. It was just, look, we bought these tickets, we selling out these events because we coming to see something. We coming to see some athletes give us a show.
Right,
And
right.
that was like the dopest part of just everything about London, starting from the opening ceremonies, even the vibe away from the stadium. When you walk around in the public and stuff like that, people walk up to you and, oh man, I saw you on such and such, or you're from America, or they want to take pictures with you and they want you to sign things. And yeah,
and they respect you for the athlete that you are.
Right.
It just so happened that you happen to be an athlete with a disability.
All right.
But they understand the work that you put in to get to where you are. Like you said, it's the pinnacle. That's the mountaintop. So they understand that grind that you have to go through to climb and get right there. And it ain't guaranteed. I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. You know, it can be taken away from you easily. You can miss out on making it.
Exactly.
So I think that was the dope thing in everybody's experience, especially with London, is that, you know, you were treated as if there was no different.
Yeah.
So I was going to
go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say that I always explain when people ask, when I tell them like I'm a Paralympic athlete, and then, you know, I always say this thing, like I always ask them, like, do you know what a Paralympian is? Because a lot of people, up until, I'm not gonna lie, this year has been a big shift. It's been shifting the energy and how the USOPC has been, you know, putting us on the forefront. I can tell the shift whenever I talk to people now. But before, I used to be like, do you know what that is? And some of them were like, yeah, no, kind of, you know. And then I always tell people that, you know, we're professional athletes with a disability, or I'll say we're elite athletes with a disability. There's nothing wrong with the disability part. I'm just identifying like that's why we do what we do. But the key thing is the elite, the profession, and it's the fact that the work that we put in to get to the point, whatever level we're on, or I won't even say level, I'll say championships, because I had a thought also when we're talking about opening ceremonies. One of the most exciting ceremonies for me as well was the IBS 2007 games when I was with you two, you know what I mean? And we were in Brazil.
Yeah.
For me, that was exciting. We walked in and we did the whole, if I can remember, we did the whole ceremony. And I know, Joe, you know, we were roommates, so we got stories for days.
Yeah, that's another show. That's another.
Yeah. That's the first time I ever met Wes, go ahead.
Exactly. I was saying that was the first time that we really met, you know what I'm saying, met Lex and everybody. That was, and that's when we were like, okay, we're not the only ones type of thing.
That man, I like how that man Joe Markeith said we got stories for days. That man Joe skated past that one with the little chuckle.
Yeah.
He skated past. He skated past that
Joe,
one.
next time, huh?
We're going to have to do that one later. But look, Go
My
ahead.
bad,
Go
Joe.
ahead.
I was gonna say I know that time dwindling down, but I wanted to definitely talk about one of my favorite moments is Markeith and I. We were actually roommates in Chula Vista at the Olympic Training Center, and for a few years,
Man,
and
we roommates. All three of us are we just roommates.
man,
Period, bro.
exactly. And so in 2015, Markeith got married. Shout out to that. He got married to his beautiful wife, Jessica Price.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
so we have wrote me and Markeith had collabed on the song for his wedding.
Yes, sir.
And that was a really fun time, really great wedding. But we just wanted to talk about like how was life as someone who's visually impaired and being married, because Jessica, she's she doesn't have a visual impairment, but like how does that look? Is it any, would you say it's any different, or like what does that look like?
Man, so I mean, I'm not necessarily sure how you're asking the question,
I
but
guess just
what I
like
would
any
say is,
specific experiences or something, just like, because people feel as though like if you're visually impaired, like, oh, okay, well maybe you date someone that's visually impaired also, which I mean there's a lot of people out there like that and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's also the other side of the equation too, where it's okay, well, I'm in a relationship with somebody who can see, and there's nothing like too different.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, relationships are relationships.
Right.
I mean, yeah, right. Like, I mean that's a big broad. Like, I
Like,
don't know, man.
have there been instances where you might have to, because I'm in that same boat. My wife doesn't have a visual impairment, but it's a little different because she's a teacher of the visually impaired. So there's some things where she automatically gets it. I don't even have to explain.
So
But
what I was going,
go
okay,
ahead. Go ahead.
my bad. So what I was going to say is the reason why I said relationships are relationships, because all relationships come with different dynamics, and
Mhm.
so yeah, I mean it's different and it's the same. Like, and the reason why I say that is like I got married. Shout out to my wife Jessica in 2015. We're actually about to come up on our 5-year anniversary,
Ooh,
October
look at
3rd.
that. Look
Let's
at that.
go.
Let's
Yes,
get it.
sir. But the reality of it is that, I think I know my wife for a long time. We dated, we talked all the time. She's my best friend. She knew me, she knows me. But when we got married, it was a little bit different because she didn't know everything about me and I didn't know everything about her. Like, I'm still gonna be learning. My grandparents been married for 60 years now, and they told
Man,
me, hey, just know that it always changes, and that's okay, because that just gives you more to learn from your other person. And so um why I say that is because there was some things as an adult that I didn't realize, that I didn't understand about my visual impairment, because of my mindset of just always just this drive to do everything by myself, like the independence and just everything. Like, I had to slow my thinking down so that I can keep moving forward at the pace that I was moving. And so with that, what 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 that helped is communication between me and my wife, because there were some things that, because I didn't understand, she didn't even understand. And she didn't realize, like, there were going to be certain things that were going to be different, and there's going to be things that are going to be the same. So that's why I say relationships, man, like that's a big, broad spectrum.
right.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, would you say some of those things that she didn't know, are they specifically linked to like you as someone who's visually impaired, or is it just like general aspects of being in a relationship? Like did she ever think like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know that you couldn't see that, or I didn't know this, or um, maybe she's gotten more exposed to like some of the accessible options for like for I don't know, just like the community and transportation
Yeah.
and, you know.
Yeah. I think, yeah, like some of it is that she's gotten to know me a little bit more just as a person, as my mind and my
Yeah.
creativity of who I am. She didn't realize how, like, she always says, I didn't realize like how creative you really were. Or I didn't realize, like, one thing is like, because I have some vision and I use my telescope, I like to look at like the moon and the stars and stuff. And she
Yeah.
didn't realize, like, using my
Oh, that man
monocular, that's
romantic.
something that's, oh, you funny. You
Yeah.
she didn't realize like I like that stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
But I will say that she also didn't realize some of the things that were in the visually impaired community. She's learned. She understood some things, but there are some newer things that she's just like, man, she didn't know like how. I'm not going not to call us out like that because we have to be. But
Yeah.
she didn't realize the visually impaired blind community was aggressive, like at
Yeah.
at advocating for our rights. Like she's always seen me advocate and how chill, but how like aggressive and chill that I am when it comes to it. Like I'm relaxed and I'm not so just like with it,
Yeah.
like thrashing people. We went to some things for like my organization and just NFB, and she's just like, wow, I didn't realize like you guys were like that, and that's
Yeah.
because we have to be, right? And so there's some things like in the house, like you asked me about like if she like didn't realize how far I really could see or not. That actually she had to register. That had to like that had to click in her brain because one, maybe because I didn't know how to explain to people what my vision really was up until a certain point, because I still was learning, and because people always want to ask you, and it's just like, man, I, I always used to be like, man, I really don't know because I didn't know what other people saw. I only knew what I saw. So so like she had to learn while I was learning how to explain it. And there was things that she was watching me do, and she's just like, well, I didn't know that you couldn't see this, because there's some things that a lot of visually impaired blind individuals do. We like do things so sighted, but we actually can't see it. Or like you think the person can see something, but they really can't.
Yeah.
And so I know you guys know what I'm talking about, but it's just
Hmm.
like people just like, dang, like you lying, you can see. And so for me, it's like, I always say I'm the man in the middle of the totally blind and the sighted. And so for me, it's like, well, yeah, I can see, but I can't see that.
Yeah.
And I know for Lex, I've heard people say, man, you ain't blind, man. It's just like, I always be like, man, Lex, man, that's the man. He the GOAT, man. Like, period. Like, he can see. He just can't see. It's okay. It's accepted.
Yeah, a lot of
So,
yeah, a lot of it is it's just like you build up a certain type of muscle memory and a certain type of awareness where you get into
mhm,
situations and you just feel like you know what's going on. Like, well, you know what's going on, but
mhm,
from the outside looking in, people feel like, okay, what exactly can you see because you're doing some of these things so effortlessly? Like, when the how do you know to make that left hand turn so smoothly, or how do you
mhm.
know to grab that
Right,
cup directly
Man, how do
without
you
having to
eat?
right, like
right.
without feeling
Man,
around?
how do
So
you? Yeah. They
Man,
trying to
it's
figure. They
called
trying
being
to.
a
They
smooth.
smooth
Uh,
operator.
yeah, there you go. I was about to say it's called being a smooth operator, man. Like, so, like, yeah, there were some differences, and so there were some things that she didn't know, and she's still learning because I'm still learning, and that's
right,
okay. And I mean, there's things where because I said, hey, I got to take my time to understand a little bit more. She's taking her time to understand. She just like whatever she's going through, I'm here to help her.
yeah,
Whatever I'm going through, she's here. to help me. And that's what you call a partnership. And so that's why I say relationships are relationships. Like
Right.
every relationship has their thing. And it just so happened that I'm visually impaired in a relationship, and that's not the only thing that makes my relationship. It's
Right.
just one thing that we have victories about, and some things that is just like, oh dang, like, okay, like let's figure this out. Like, how are we gonna get through this?
Yeah.
Because like for me, I feel like it's navigation for me. Like I don't want to live somewhere where I'm not able to like get around. Like I'm a go getter.
Yeah. Being
So I
self-sufficient.
gotta, yeah, exactly, be self-efficient. And I didn't understand that concept up until I actually got married. Like I understood the concept of self-efficiency, but I didn't understand that sometimes a location may, I don't want to say it like that because I don't feel like anything's going to stop me, but sometimes a location has, I'm going to say, like, has limitations to your uh what I'm going to say, your mobility, and you want to be able to set yourself up to have the best to have the best mobility, or being able to get out and be independent. And so, and I know limitations is also a mindset too. So it's not allowing those barriers to just stop you, but it's also figuring out how to either get past those barriers, jump over those barriers, go under those barriers, or sometimes you just got to break through the barrier. And so that's kind of where I'm at. It's, I used to always just like break through the barrier, like just like be aggressive. But
Right.
as I've gotten a little older, I'm like, oh, I can jump. Oh, I can go around. It's okay. Like I can go under. Like I don't always have to like be that breakthrough. Sometimes it's not necessarily avoiding, but it's just like finding a different way to do something. And
Gotcha.
that's what we kind of learned
Yeah. Now,
as being married too.
right. I would say so. Two things. The first thing you had mentioned, the visually impaired community being aggressive. Certainly, may be some aggressive ones out there, but I don't. I'm gonna say more like assertive. You're assertive
I
because
appreciate that, man.
some people may feel like, oh, okay, well, I want to help this person, and we go ahead and it may snap off on them, or scratching and clawing and being aggressive. Certainly not aggressive in that
Man,
type
all
of
I know is I'm gonna
sense.
let you go. I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry. I just gotta say this. I know you feel this way. Don't grab my cane, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Nah, people got to learn those type of things. But
yeah.
Well,
man,
go ahead, bro. I just had to say that for
No, no,
all
no,
the
no.
listeners that are visually impaired, that's not visually impaired, that use a cane. Bro, when I use my cane and I'm in the airport and I know you helping me, I appreciate it. But please, don't grab my cane, man.
Yeah,
That should be a
nah.
song, bro.
I
Don't grab my cane.
you need to, hey, you into the music now, you making the beats, you need to make a song out of that.
man,
I'm
what?
glad you mentioned the airport, because I remember I had went out to Baltimore I was out there for a conference or whatnot. And so you remember me and Jess had went to Nando's. And
Yeah,
so she had dropped me off at the airport. And when
yeah.
when we got to the airport, that assistant came through with that wheelchair, and Jess said,
Oh
Yeah.
man,
Jess said, he don't need that. He don't need that. And
that's what's up, man. She know what's up.
she does. I said, man, Jesse, that's why you the GOAT right there. You
Yeah,
the best.
yeah.
But man, hey, Markeith, man, we appreciate you coming on the site school, teaching people a little bit about how to see out here in these streets. If you had to, this is just one of my random questions, but if you had to leave the listeners with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Dang, bro, you hit me with that. I ain't know you was gonna hit me with that.
You
I got
didn't.
so much. Man, I'ma say, I always tell people, one, keep your head up, keep going. And I always say move and progress, because that's my thing. That's why I made it. That's why I branded it. And one thing is is whatever you're going through, whatever you feel, I would say just know that you can do it. You got to believe in yourself, but you can do whatever you put your mindset to, because that was something that I was told when I was a kid. I believed it, and it's actually come true to the fact that I can do what I put my mind to. So I'll leave him with that.
That's what's up, man.
I like that.
Hey, that ain't the last time y'all gonna hear from Markeith.
Yes, sir.
But I want,
We-
you know what? I just want to, and Markeith, he ended us with that nice piece of advice. But I also just want to let y'all know too that he says move, progress. That's literally moving and progressing. That doesn't mean that you have to be out here making huge long jumps and huge strides in life. Like, it happens, and that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But my man said move, progress. It can, baby steps is
Baby
that's the
steps.
definition of moving and progressing. As long as you move
I
forward.
appreciate that, man.
So
Hey,
that's
gotta-
how
you
I
gotta
vibe
do
with
something.
move, progressing.
Yeah,
I
you gotta do
appreciate
something.
that perspective.
For sure.
Man, hey, we appreciate you, bro, for real.
Yup.
But we out of here. Another episode of Sight School. Joe, where can they find us, man?
Hey, first, you can reach us at thesightschool@gmail.com. That is thesightschool@gmail.com. But secondly, please, 3 things we need you to do. We need you to comment underneath this video. Then we need you to like the video. And then please, please, please subscribe to the channel and turn that notification bell on. So anytime we upload any content, you will get it.
And subscribing on that YouTube channel.
On YouTube.
Sight School. So until next time, everyone, we appreciate you listening. This is a Sight School. We out of here teaching people to see.
Peace out.